A British judge has ruled Julian Assange should not be extradited to the United States to face espionage and hacking charges due to concerns for his mental health. US authorities say they'll appeal the decision, while our Prime Minister has opened up the possibility that he could return to Australia.
Stella Morris, her fist raised, declaring a victory for her partner Julian Assange, but one, she says, that's come at great cost. A British judge ruling the Australian WikiLeaks founder should not be extradited to the United States to face charges of espionage and conspiring to hack government computers. But it wasn't entirely the win hoped for, the judge rejecting almost all of the defence arguments, including that Assange was acting as a journalist when he obtained and released hundreds of thousands of classified documents in 2010. Instead, his extradition was blocked on the grounds of mental health and the high risk of suicide inside a US supermax prison.
Buenos días. Felicidades. Voy a pedirle al secretario de Relaciones Exteriores que haga los trámites correspondientes para que se solicite al gobierno del Reino Unido la posibilidad de que el señor Assange quede en libertad y que México le ofrece asilo político.
The Iranian forces have seized a South Korean tanker. The South Korea's foreign ministry is reviewing whether to send a senior diplomat to Tehran. Now, on the agenda of the visit was, of course, to discuss Iran's demand that South Korea should release about $7 billion in terms of funds that had been frozen by South Korean banks at the behest of the Americans, which has imposed, according to the Trump administration's policy of maximum pressure, a freeze on Iranian assets. Now, South Korea's Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa said that she is making certain diplomatic efforts to try and secure the release of the tanker. The minister said that she responded to her counterparts in Iran and that the ministry will now be in talks with diplomats in Tehran and Seoul to try and resolve the issue as soon as possible.
Amid the border tensions between India and China, China has provoked India once again. It has deployed tanks in front of Indian posts in a sign that Beijing is unwilling to reduce tensions along the line of actual control. On your screen now is the exclusive video which shows that China has deployed 30 to 35 tanks opposite Rezangla, Rechinla and Mokosri locations. These heights were captured by the Indian Army on the 29th and the 30th of August. The Chinese tanks are currently positioned against Indian positions. These tanks are light in weight and made using modern technology. Meanwhile, the Indian forces are fully prepared to give a befitting reply to China in case it resorts to any misadventure.
Washington, D.C. police say they arrested the leader of right-wing nationalists, the Proud Boys, on Monday. The group is expected to converge on the U.S. Capitol this week as part of broader pro-Trump protests. Leader Henry Enrique Tarrio was charged with destruction of property during an earlier protest, and a police statement said he was, quote, in possession of 2 high-capacity firearm magazines at the time of his arrest. Earlier, Tarrio said on the social media app Parler that record numbers of members would protest the U.S. presidential election starting on Wednesday, when Congress is due to certify the election results. Last week, President Donald Trump had tweeted, "The big protest rally in Washington, D.C. will take place at 11 a.m. on January 6th. Stop the steal." Several rallies are planned, including one outside the Capitol building. One person briefed on the president's plans said he will speak to his supporters near the White House. On Monday, city officials warned Trump supporters not to bring guns to the protests.
Re-elected to a second term, President Faustin Archange Touadera says he can unite a divided Central African Republic. It's an ambitious goal at a fragile time. Results monitored by the Electoral Commission show he received an absolute majority in an election marked by violence. The challenges are many. Central African Republic is still recovering from a civil war. The president's supporters are hopeful he can bring peace and stability.
Well, meanwhile, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and state leaders there are expected today to extend a shutdown in Europe's top economy as coronavirus deaths continue to mount despite tough restrictions in the run-up to the holidays. Daily deaths there surpassed the 1,000 mark for the first time at the end of last year, with Merkel and the premiers of Germany's 16 states due to meet later, set to extend the current partial lockdown beyond the January the 10th date already planned.
Well, it's widely expected. As you were saying, the measures in place now will be extended until at least January the 31st. Those measures include schools are shut, non-essential shops are shut, you have to wear a mask in public transport. There's a variation according to the region, which has been a part of the problem in terms of cracking down against the spread of the coronavirus in Germany.
It's a blockade that has lasted almost all of Donald Trump's presidency. Saudi Arabia and three of its closest partners, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt, have maintained a blockade of Qatar since June of 2017. Now, with less than 3 weeks left in office, the administration has seized on a last-minute foreign policy achievement, reconciling the sides. For Washington, it involved weeks of shuttle diplomacy. The president's son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner, led a team between Riyadh and Doha to try to ease tensions between the two wealthy and strategically important U.S. allies. Kushner has a particularly close relationship with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And Qatar is host to the Middle Eastern headquarters of U.S. Central Command, where more than 10,000 U.S. troops are based.
Back to Zimbabwe now, and that country is in hard lockdown again. A surge in cases recently has seen government impose a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew. It took effect last night.
On the 19th of January 1932, the first locomotive crossed the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Since then, trains travelling on the landmark have changed dramatically, but the decks and the sleepers below have remained largely untouched until now.
After 89 years, even Sydney's grand old dame could be forgiven for needing a grease and oil change.
It's huge. So in the 10-day period, we've got 12,000 hours of work happening.
Halfway through a $90 million project, teams working around the clock to upgrade the decks of the Sydney Harbour Bridge rail corridor from timber to concrete.
So it reduces the amount of maintenance that we'll need to do on this part of the railway.
These concrete blocks weigh around 3 tonnes each and have made it all the way down from Newcastle to take their spot on the Harbour Bridge, where placement of them is a very, very delicate operation.
Officials from the Federal Aviation Administration say there were no aircraft incidents or accidents in this area Tuesday night, but multiple witnesses report seeing a large blue object fall out of the sky and into the ocean.
Something is in the sky. What is that?
This video was taken by Misitina Sape at 8:26 Tuesday night near Haleakala Avenue in Nanakuli. Not long after, a woman named Mariah spotted the same thing passing over Princess Kahanu Estates.
And then I was like, oh, started calling my husband in because we was all in the garage. I was like, hey, look up there. See what I see. They all said, yeah.
The 38-year-old says she's never really been a believer in UFOs, but the bright blue object had them so intrigued, they jumped in the car and started following it.
I don't know what it was. This one was going so fast.
The journey ended less than 3 miles from where it began, on Farrington Highway in front of the Board of Water Supply building, after the object appeared to drop into the ocean.